Rifles in the Ardennes, mission number 7. Going through our campaign series now, towards the end of the campaign, and we are faced with quite a challenge because today we are doing an assault mission against an enemy position, and those enemy positions may include things like mortars, heavy machine gunners, flamethrowers, as well as the usual parade of riflemen, submachine gunners and assault rifle armed enemies. Somewhere on these 6 stripes there will be at least one of those weapons in a group or 2, and we need to find and eliminate the enemies in that group before the end of turn 12. There will of course be other enemies that we may have to fight, and so we are faced with a tough challenge. And with that in mind, potential for this game to be slightly longer than others, so I have already rolled on the reinforcements table, and I have been reinforced with Bob, who is a new submachine gunner, and everyone now has a full complement of 2 grenades. Adam up the top there is of course still wounded from the last mission. A few things to note on this particular game: we do have a hill here, and whether I've lost the counter or whether I haven't got around to making it, or maybe it isn't there, but I only seem to have 1 hill counter, and yet I have hills across both stripes 1 and 2. Those hills do give a +1 toughness to the soldiers in that hill, and they can see into stripes where normally line of sight might be blocked when you're on a hill. However, equally, enemies can see them as well. When you are on a hill, you can see the enemy. Okay, I think all that needs to be done is to give ourselves the recon point that comes with Hugo's skill. I have grouped the soldiers into a slightly different grouping this time. Greg is our new leader in the absence of Adam, and I've put both submachine guns and the light machine gunner into the one group with Greg on our standing leader in order to benefit from the fire group due to the additional challenge we're likely to face from these units over here. When you just play one of these missions on their own, you can choose from other units such as mortars, like heavy machine guns and so on, but with the campaign I stuck to the basic loadout, and maybe I should reconsider that if I ever go back and replay the campaign. But anyway, let's get cracking. Turn number 1, mission number 7. We have 1 bonus action point and 1 regular action point, and I think what I will do is I will re-roll my failed roll in an attempt to get another action, which did not work. As with other videos, I'm not going to go into detail about every single action. However, should you not follow what's going on, we do have the first video in this series that goes into more detail about how each of the actions work, or how most of the actions work. Okay, so first thing we'll do then, we'll send our smaller group, which is just 3 riflemen now. We're going to use these as bait, for want of a different word, try and find the enemy. We will trigger event number 2. I'll use my bonus action so that I can have a recon point for doing that, and on mission number 2, sorry, event number 2, we actually have no event, which is quite good, leaving us with a second action. Now we could move these guys forward again, try and find the next or the first group of enemies, or I could move these guys up in support. I hope there's nothing happening on the presence table, which again, as with other missions, this would be a roll of 6 during the enemy presence phase. Let's do that. Let's risk it. Let's just move these guys forward. So the enemy presence check then. Roll of a 2. There are no enemies. So we skip straight to our first actions of turn number 2. Right. Roll the die. And we have a bonus action and 2 regular actions. Okay, regular action, move forward and see what's under that event there with our smaller group. Number 7, event number 7 Is 2 rifles on trees or a building? Interesting that we get the choice there. I'm not sure how we determine which, but on my line of sight here, the first thing we come across is a building. So let's place our 2 riflemen. Yep, 2 riflemen on the tree, on the building. There. Okay, that's an interesting challenge straight away with 2 enemies in cover, and of course the penalty here if we're shooting at range. Let's try and demonstrate why I've grouped these guys together this time with those machine gunners. Let's move all those guys together using our regular action, and then we will make sure we keep them in their separate groups. Create a fire group here. So Greg, the leader, will not fire, but he will combine fire from all the other guns on the group that he is, or in the group that he is in. And so that's going to be base combat factor of 3 for each of the machine gunners, plus a base combat factor of 1. So we start at a base combat factor of 7. Bearing in mind we do need to hit 8 in order to injure these riflemen. The riflemen have a baseline toughness of 6, plus 2 for the building. The additional plus 1 will only, for the fields, will only come into effect when you're shooting at them from range. I suppose it's just harder to see people hiding in a field rather than when you're not in the field yourself. Okay, so let's roll 1 die for all of those attacks onto the building. We rolled a 3. That's definitely a damage. So we're going to say that the top one there is suppressed. No need to roll for enemy presence as we have 2 units on the board, but we do need to roll to see what those units are going to do. And on a roll of a 6, we have a different action to what we've had before. If the leader is present, create a fire group of their own. Otherwise, attack with a +1 DRM. Wow. Okay, so, and the unit group they are going to attack is going to be the smaller group, which is going to be this group at the back here. And within that, the unit we are going to attack is going to be the unit with a lower toughness number. As with many of these missions, we have 3 units here, all with the same toughness number. So what I'm going to do today, rather than rolling randomly to see which one they shoot at, I'm going to look at their various skills and see which one is the strongest skill and shoot at that one. So we have Craig as a sharpshooter, effect at range 1 of a +1 combat factor. Ed, who is close combat at range 0, gets a benefit to his base combat factor. And then Fred, who currently has no buffs actually, which I'm slightly surprised at. I thought I'd buffed him up. Maybe not. So I would say then, given the +1 at range 0, we will fire at... Which one did I say? We'll fire at Ed. So first unit then has a 3, no damage, and a 6, so Ed is now suppressed. Okay, turn number 3. 1 action, and I'll spend the recon point to re-roll one of those two ones. And we have another 1, so 1 action. I don't really feel the need to hunt down any more enemies until we have a bit more action that we can take. Having just 1 action leaves you with a choice between shooting or moving or going to cover, any of the range of things we could do. Interesting choice, because we have only 12 turns to find and destroy quite a heavily armed unit. No matter what we roll on that table, we will find quite a heavily armed unit or group of units. So let's try and clear out this building first. Let's attack again. Fire group as before. So baseline of 7, firing into that building. We'll fire at the suppressed unit. Rolling a 5 plus the 7. We have killed that unit. There's no difference between the two units at this point. There may be later as we get extra units with groups being formed and grenades and so on, but at this point there's no difference between those two units. So it didn't really matter which one we said was suppressed, but it is now their turn. We do roll for enemy presence. There is no additional enemy presence on the board, so the rifleman will move or will do something. We simply attack, and the one that we will attack will be the larger group, so we are attacking the machine gunners. The unit within that group will be the ones with the higher combat factor, so it's going to be one of the 2 submachine gunners. And I'm going to say that Bob is going to take some fire because he's the more inexperienced of the group, and a roll of 2 plus the 1 only gives a combat factor of 3, and of course our baseline toughness is 6, so we are okay. Moving then into turn number 4, we are a third of the way through the game. We haven't got further than strike 2, so now we need to have a think about what we're going to do. I will keep the groups as is. We have a better supply of actions this time, including a bonus action. So let's have a think. I could fire normally. Rather than create a fire group, I could fire normally. These 2 submachine gunners have a baseline of 3, meaning I'd have to get a 5 plus. Maybe, maybe not. I could use their grenades to boost that, which may be a good possibility. Because what I don't really want to do is reveal the more powerful units while I'm still being shot in the back by this guy. I could recover. Recovery might be useful. Let's fire with let's fire. What we'll do is we will fire individually here, which will give us many more attacks, but we will need to roll 5 pluses. Okay, starting with Bob here, most recently shot at. He's going to retaliate with a regular action, but we are going to spend a grenade, which will give it a +1, so his baseline is 4. We've got a 6. Excellent. We have suppressed that unit, although we do need to remove a grenade from Bob. I was lucky in the pre-game setup in that I did get both a unit and some grenades. So now we'll fire with Hugo, and I think we will do exactly the same thing. Fire with a grenade. I said it was 1 previously, but something in the back of my head is telling me actually it should have been 2. Let me just clarify that. Yes, it should have been a +2, so they're going to start at 5. The baseline grenade with its standard area effect is actually just the 1 combat factor, but targeting it like this is going to give it a +2. So baseline of 5, we require at least 3, and we've got 3. Fantastic. That unit is deceased. Event number 1, when I find my table, is no event. That's useful, so I'll simply move this second group up then, and gather the recon point for doing so with a bonus action. Enemy presence, and on a roll of a 3, there is no additional enemy presence. Moving into turn number 5, groups will stay the same. I'm quite liking this increased firepower here. It's very handy. But of course we are now out into the open with just a tree or 2 to hide behind, which we'll see. We'll see. Those enemies are going to be coming soon, I'm sure. A sole action and a roll of a 4. Okay, so let's re-roll one of those failed orders, I guess. real miscommunication there, rolling a 1. So just the one action again. Just the one action. I think I'll spend it to recover. Try and recover that guy. Ed is not going to benefit from any... I can't actually recover because the leader's not there. Or rally. Okay, so in that case I will move them forward. Actually, what I'll do instead is I'll place them on Overwatch. I don't think I've shown this action, but Overwatch basically means that the guys can fire. If any enemy appear during the enemy presence check, we can fire first before they do their activations. So those guys on Overwatch, it does cost the action. Normally there is a modifier to reduce the effectiveness of your combat. If you have a bonus action though, you don't apply that modifier, as that's the buff that bonus action gives you. But anyway, let's see, it only really applies if we have an enemy presence. We don't, so moving then into turn number 6. And we have 2 actions plus a failed order. I'll spend the recon point and re-roll, missing the dice tower completely. And on a 2, the order still doesn't go through. So let us then take our 2 regular actions. We'll move first with the guys who are on Overwatch. We'd have to remove that, triggering event number 3, which is a rifle and an SMG on the trees. Rifleman and an SMG on the tree. And those guys are now going to join. Do they join fire? No, I think it'd be better to do them separately again, wouldn't it? Because then we can benefit from the area effect of the light machine gunner plus the more powerful SMG. And the tree just gives them a +1 buff. So even on 6s, for the SMG's lower combat factor, we could still do some damage. So let's get that done. Firing first with Hugo at the German units, then we got a 4 plus the 3. Unit is suppressed. Firing again now with Bob, who is also a submachine gunner. Base combat of 3 plus the 4. That unit is dead. Then with Greg, who is a rifleman. Greg does not have any specific combat buffs, and he misses anyway. And then John, a light machine gunner, who is a veteran, so he will have a +1 to his die roll. Does some damage. Now we killed an enemy, but we injured another, but we are faced with enemy presence. It's one of those issues with this game where one of those decisions where you decide, do you try and completely eliminate a unit, leaving just one to shoot at you, or do you eliminate, or do you do damage to more than one, knowing that you'll still get a high number of attacks, but less chance of any enemies coming through the enemy presence check phase. It's interesting. It's difficult to know, but I suppose it partly depends on how well armed those soldiers are. But let's see, we've only got a rifleman firing at us at the time when the time comes. But first, the presence check. Fine, no probs. The rifleman on the tree then is going to attack, and a roll of a 1. He will hit, both groups are in range, and he will actually shoot at the smaller group, which seems slightly strange, but which is obviously this group here. I suppose there is a guy wounded. And a roll of a 3, he will attack the unit with a lower toughness number, and we will say the lower toughness number is going to be Fred, because he has no buffs. And a roll of a 4 plus the 1. There is no effect from that rifleman. Okay, Ed, of course, was the one suppressed. Turn number 7. Okay, turn number 7. groups will stay as is. And we have two actions this time. First action will be to move up. And then I do want to clear that unit before we move any further, because we will almost certainly, within the next turn or two at least, find that unit, that group of units that we have to destroy, the more heavily armed group. So we'll attack separately as before. So starting with Hugo, a roll of a 4 plus his 3 baseline does kill that enemy. So we've moved up, we've fired, that is the turn over. Apart from any enemy presence, no presence. Turn number 8, then 4 turns remain. 2 actions. First action is going to be to move. See what we have. Number 8. Number 8, roll on the assault section table. Remove remaining markers from the map. This group is our mission objective. Okay, so that marker is taken away, unrevealed. We roll on the assault table. So the assault table, 1 or 2 with flamethrowers and SMGs. A 3 or a 4, we have a leader, a light machine gun, and 2 rifles. On a 5, we have a leader, 2 rifles, and a mortar. On a 6, we have a leader with 2 rifles in a building with grenades and 3 SMGs. Wow, let's try for anything but a 6. We got a 4, and that 4 is a leader and a submachine gun. Sorry, a light machine gun on a building. Cabin in the woods with a fortified position. And the other issue we have are 2 riflemen on the previous strike, and these are just normal riflemen. Okay, so that's 4 guys to eliminate in 4 remaining turns. Okay. So I think our first action is going to have to be coordinate fire again at the submachine gunner, because that's by far the most powerful unit on the board. There are no grenades that these guys have. So let's start then. We will have firepower of 7. Firing into that building. 7 plus 3 being 10. They only have a toughness of 8, even with the cover. So there we go. That submachine gun is suppressed. Now what will they do? Starting with the guys on the strike. Roll of a 5. Those 2 units just here will cover and then attack. They're already in cover, but they will attack. Roll of 1. They will attack the smaller group, which doesn't make a lot of sense because the most powerful weapon is at range 0, but they'll attack this group with the light machine gunner. It is an area effect weapon, so it will attack 2 units, and so the 2 units it will attack will be on rolls of 2s. It will be the units with the lower toughness number, so we're going to say Ed will be the first one. On a roll of a 5 plus the 1 power, Ed is eliminated from the game, sadly. And the second one I will say fires at Fred, because Fred is not benefiting from any combat buff. A roll of a 4 plus the 1, no damage. Okay, this group then, on a roll of 4, will attack, but can only hit these guys. The line of sight from the hill will be able to see, ignores base terrain cover, so they can see without any problems. Which unit will they attack? On a roll of a 6, they will attack the higher combat factor, which is going to be either Bob or or Hugo. I would say, given Hugo has the buff, we will say he is the person they are attacking. On a roll of a 6, +1, Hugo is suppressed, and then the second time, no damage, but Hugo is now suppressed. Okay, turn number 9. 3 actions. Excellent. We need as many actions as we can get at the moment. Okay. First action will be to try and eliminate that submachine gunner. Grouping. No, not doing a fire group. I'll use the grenades. We still have the 2 submachine gunners do have 1 grenade each, so we'll start with them. Firing first at the submachine gunner. So with Bob first, a roll of a 1, +3, +2 for the grenades. Still no effect. Now with Hugo, 4 + 3 is 7, +2 for grenades, -1 because he is suppressed. Still leaves us with 3 + 2. Still leaves us with with enough to eliminate that guy there, which is good. The light machine gunner will fire now. We will need to roll 6. If we use a grenade, 6 or 8. He is a veteran, so that's going to be a baseline of 2 plus the die roll, so we need at least a 6. If we use a grenade, we need at least a 4, so we'll use that grenade. That guy is suppressed. And then finally, the rifleman Greg, who is of course our leader, will fire. I don't think he can do any damage though. Be 1, even if we have a grenade, it'd be 3. He'd need to roll a 6, I think. No damage. Okay, but let's remove the grenades from that unit. That unit now has no grenades. So that's Bob. Has no grenades. Hugo has no grenades. John has no grenades either. Okay, and Greg used his grenades. Wow, group are now out of grenades apart from Craig. He's not in the right place. The second action then, we're going to try and recover that suppression from Hugo. Roll 4 is fine. And then we're going to move. I think we're going to move the smaller group of units in there as well. Okay, no need to roll for enemy presence, but the light machine gunner is on a roll of a 5 going to attack. The group he's going to attack is the larger group, so that's this group here. He's going to shoot at the higher combat factor, so we're going to say that's Hugo because he has the 3 combat factor submachine gun, and he has a buff as well for his heroic morale. So let's roll both of those 2 attacks straight away. Nothing. Fine, nothing. The 2 riflemen here. On a roll of a 2, they will attack. On a roll of a 3, they will attack the smaller group. Okay, so that's that group. And then which of those 2 guys they will shoot at is going to be, again, the unit with a lower toughness number, which I will say is Fred because he does not have any buffs. So both of them then, I'll roll them both at the same time. A 5 and a 1 neither hit. Okay, turn number 10. One this turn and then 2 more. Just the one action. Okay, just the one action. Fire group against this guy. Just a full fire group, so that's going to be baseline of 7 plus the die roll. Just need a 1. Wow, that was close. Okay. Now no presents, but we see to say what the riflemen do. Oh, we rolled a 5. Not sure why I used my turn track dice, but on a roll of a 5, they advance and then attack. Now, do we go into cover when we advance? I think they do. Pretty sure I checked that earlier. Yes, they go into cover. Or they may even go into the building. Yeah, they go and hide in the building as the best terrain, the best cover modifier on the terrain, and then they attack. And with a 6, they will attack the larger group, and they are shooting at the unit with a lower toughness number, which is going to say is Bob again. Both of them shooting at Bob, requiring a one's a 6, and then the other one is a 5, so we do have 1 damage. Woods give them cover, so just 1 suppression on Bob. Turn number 11. 2 bonus actions. Cool. We can't fire twice with any one group, but what we can do is benefit from fire modifiers. So starting with this group here, will fire. The submachine guns will fire separately. So Hugo first. Doesn't have any grenades, so he needs to roll 5 or a 6. 5. Excellent. We have cause suppression on one of those units. Bob then will fire. He will need to roll a 6 because he is suppressed himself. He rolled a 5, that's no good. The light machine gunner will attack them both. He will have a baseline of 2, so he will need to also roll 6. Yes, that one, we'll say that one is dead. And then finally Greg. It's Greg. It was only Craig that had grenades, wasn't it? So Greg, on a roll of a 6, actually couldn't do any damage. That was a bit of a wasted attack. So now then just these guys, and we'll attack again with Fred and Craig. Craig does have a grenade, which we'll use. So he's got a baseline of 3, needing to roll 5. No. Fred. No. Okay, not such a good attack that time. Enemy presence. Only 1 unit left on the board. We need to roll enemy presence. No enemy presence. That rifleman will attack with a +1 DRM on a roll of 6. Okay. On a roll of a 6, he will attack the large group. And then on a 3, lower toughness, that will be Bob. So starting with a 2, yep, Bob is dead. Bob did not last his first mission. Okay. That's one of our riflemen. Our submachine gun has gone as well, isn't it? Okay, so final turn. Can we take out that rifleman? in this turn, or do we lose the mission for not having completed it in time? So let's see. Rifle roll for actions, 2 actions, including 1 bonus action. I think I'm going to have to fire with these guys separately. As much as I want to combine fire, there's too low a chance. Imagine Craig does have a grenade still. Let's combine fire here just to make sure we do some damage. So we've got 2 plus 3, it's 5. Needing to roll a 3 plus because of the building. Roll a 6. Excellent. That guy's suppressed. Craig then, with our bonus action point, giving him a modifier of +1. Baseline is 1. Modifier is +1. Grenade that he'll use is +2. So he starts on a 4, needing to roll 4 plus. No. Fred then, needing to... Actually, he's the same. He cannot damage. He only has a 1. Doesn't have any grenades. Oh, no, I think we have just timed out the mission. But let's see if there's any other enemies first. No other enemies. The rifleman then, what does he do? On a roll of 2, he will rally. So let's see if the rifleman rallies. Yep, the rifleman does rally. Meaning our assault was a bust. We timed out. The nest of enemy units was just too deep for us to dig out on that turn. Not having a great campaign now, moving into these more difficult missions. Still, at least we only, well, I say we only lost 1 match, lost 2. We lost Ed and Bob in that turn. Okay, so end of mission tidy up. We roll a d6 for the experience points, which would be 3, but we lose 1 because we had 2 experience points, bringing our total to 3. At this point in the game, late in the game now, with our newest member deceased, the only person we can give a buff to is actually Fred. What buff shall we give Fred? Fred is a rifleman. And we have a few things going on here. Tell you what, let's do that quick shot. Natural roll of 5 or 6, second attack. That sounds good. Okay. But what happens, of course, to Bob and Ed? Adam will return to the fray next turn. His wounds will have healed for our final, what will be our final game in this campaign anyway. We just need to check now to see what happens to Bob and Ed. So starting with Ed, our more experienced team member, on a roll of a 2, -1, because we lost. I must remember that this time. The soldier has actually died. And then rolling again for Bob this time, -1. He's still okay, but he is wounded. All right, that is the end of mission number 7, Assault. Moving now into the most challenging mission in the whole campaign, mission number 8, the front lines. The squad that we are seeing through these difficult days in the Ardennes are now facing their biggest challenge yet. So much so that we will actually get support from other soldiers who are off map, but we will be fighting potentially full squads of enemies, including assault rifle armed enemies, buildings, terrain, double activations, mortars coming off from off map, all sorts of challenge there. If you've enjoyed this, please do think about liking and subscribing. If not, I hope you've enjoyed the video anyway, because this is a fun little game, and you can play a campaign in a relatively short space of time as these things go. But until then, I will see you next time.